Hey, welcome to another exciting episode of The Real Deal. Happy Wednesday. Let's go. All right. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Glad to be back. It is March 12th. This is week 2 of my Women's History Month series, the start of week 2, and a lot of great guests from last week and more great guests this week that I'm highlighting and just featuring on. I've done this for the last few years, and just incredible women in a lot of different spaces, whether it's podcasting, broadcasting, media, sports, business, anything that can highlight the incredible women that are doing great things, not just this month, but just year round as well. So I had to bring a heavy hitter in, a good friend, to start the second week. So she's waiting in the wings. So I got to keep her long. But before I bring her on, you can follow the show on all podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, YouTube, anywhere you can get your podcast there. And also you can follow the show on bs3tvlive.com. We're on Roku channel, BS3 Network. You can follow me at Get the Real Deal on all social media platforms as well: Twitter, Facebook, Twitter X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think I'm on TikTok too, so I don't use it as much. But anywhere you can find the Real Deal with Courtney Harden, you can find it there as well. All right. Well, I am not going to keep my guest much longer in the background. Let's see. She has a impressive resume, and it just keeps doing her thing. She's a podcaster, broadcaster, Talking Elite Fitness, CrossFit. She does a little bit of everything. The Queen of Hustle is the nickname and the brand. So Miss Lauren Kalil is back on the show. Thanks, Lauren, for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Courtney, it's always good to catch up with you. And I love the little intro music. It got me hyped up.
Yes, hyped on this Wednesday morning. It's sunny outside when we're both at in Philly and Syracuse. So it's a little bit of so spring is in the air, so we can say that on the East Coast.
Yes, thank God it's finally coming. It's knocking at my door and I am ready to open it.
Yes, ready to open that door and knock it open. So, and the funny thing is, me and my wife, we just got new windows for our house. So, I mean, as we get older, those are the type of things that we love to do. So,
you get excited about that stuff.
Get excited. So we get some fresh air in our house, and that was exciting. For the last 2 weeks, we just got some new windows, so that was exciting for that. So, love it. It's warm weather, spring. It makes people happy too, in some ways,
It's crazy how just a little bit of sunshine can totally change your attitude or mindset. Or, this morning I was with my coffee. I'm still drinking my coffee. Cheers.
Yes. Cheers.
And I let my dogs out, and normally I open the door really quick, shut it behind me and let them go do their thing. And today I let it stay open for a moment. I took in the beautiful sunshine, and it just made me smile.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So we were just talking before, like the weather just does that, like 70-degree weather. And, I hope it stays this way, because we know how this weather gets. It starts to get, I hope it doesn't get back to the 30s and 40s, but it's consistently 50s, 60s, 70s. We know spring is here. So that's a wonderful thing, for sure. But how have you been? It's been a while. I was just looking. The last show we did together was sometime last year. I think it was before the games, actually. And but we've been following each other. I follow what all the things you got that you're doing, to travel and all that. But how's everything been going for you in 2025?
It's been really good so far. I feel like 2024 was a bit chaotic in the sense that I was just figuring out things as I was going. I was flying the plane as I was building it. So my schedule got a little hectic, I think, for to put it lightly. But this year I've really been able to look at my entire 2025 calendar, say, okay, these are the events that I'm absolutely doing. I'm committing to these, and then kind of filling in the gaps so that there is more of a balance of being home versus being on the road. And I
Yeah.
don't know that I'm actually working less this year. I think I'm still working more, but there's a
Mm.
better balance of, okay, 2 weeks on the road, 2 weeks at home,
Okay.
3 weeks on the road, 3 weeks at home. There's more of a back and forth, where last year there was a uh time of year where I was gone for 10 straight weeks and only home like a
Mm.
day and a half in between. And that was just like, I was grateful for those opportunities, but for my mental health and sanity, it was too
Yeah.
much. It was too much.
Yeah, and that's important. Like, and I remember like just following you and then seeing all the great content always, but all the content you had out there, and then and some of the hosting things you had to do last year and that you were doing, and it is good like, to find a balance. You said, okay, I'm committed for these for 2 weeks, and now I'm gonna be home
Mhm.
for 2 weeks and everything too. Because yes, the last time we talked, you were like you caught me on a great time last year because it was just right before you had that little bit of a small window of a break. And we
Yeah.
did the show, and then you hit the ground running, and there was a lot of things that happened with the games and everything too that can really with your mental health and everything
Mhm.
too. So I'm glad that you're taking some time to for yourself to really kind of unwind after you do a show or a weekend of something, and now you're like, okay, I'm home now for 2 weeks as well.
Yes. And my dogs also appreciate it
Yeah,
very much.
yes, and the dogs appreciate it for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. But all right, let's start there. Let's start with what's transpired in 2025 with a lot of things you do. And one of the first questions I want to ask you is like that balance because you do a little bit of everything. You got the podcast, Talking Elite Fitness. Shout out to those guys as well as
Mhm.
always. Me and my wife, I told you before, we watch you guys all the time, getting the
Yeah.
news and CrossFit and things like that. But even other things that you do too. How's that preparation when you have a lot of different things on your plate that you're able to find that balance? So yeah, I love to hear the preparation and even with the travel and things like that when you're doing a little bit of different things from tactical games to the CrossFit games to something else different and everything else.
You definitely need to be somebody who's organized, because it
Mm,
is very easy to let things slip through the cracks. Or if I have an event coming up this weekend, um i need I need time to prepare for that. But if I'm also trying to prepare for a podcast, and I even relaunched my own YouTube channel where I'm
yeah.
having guests on, and trying to organize that, you just need to always be looking forward at your schedule. And okay, how many days do I need to prepare athlete bios for a CrossFit event if I'm calling play by play, or
Yeah.
tactical games? Um, since that's a newer sport, I've actually developed all of the like stats on the athletes and rankings. So I have a
Yeah.
document that I kind of work out of. I am not a master at Excel spreadsheet. So it's the most basic thing that I would only share with a couple people.
Right.
But you just always kind of have to be looking forward and know, how many days am I going to need to prepare for this, so that it's not, I mean, last year there were so many times where I was on airplanes going to events and still trying to do my prep work,
Yeah.
because I just didn't give myself enough time. So now that I have almost a year under my belt of having a flow of this, and having my hands in a lot of different buckets, I know what to expect, which is a much more comfortable position. And that even leads to being more confident and having a better mindset going into an event, and uh, giving better coverage when I'm doing those things.
Yeah, and then that's I think you said that balance or just having that idea of okay, I need to I have to have these set of athletes that I know I have to do this with. He said with not much so much so with Microsoft Excel, but just having your spreadsheets of all these different athletes because you're right when you do a lot of different things and you said so many events, different events. You said tactical games it's a little it's different from CrossFit games, but it's they do the fitness, they do exercise,
Mhm.
do all those things, competition as well. But you might have another competition or event somewhere else could be totally different from the game. So and learning different athletes, so I'm sure it is a balancing act of sorts.
Well, and even with the lingo for the first couple of tactical games regional events, I was so used to saying the athletes on the competition floor.
Mm,
But at tactical games, they're not on a competition floor. They're at the range in a lane. So it's like there's similarities, but when it comes to the lingo and terminology,
right.
sometimes it kind of reminds me of somebody who's bilingual, and they would explain to me that sometimes they would dream in two different languages and they wouldn't really be conscious of when they were changing from like English to French. That's kind of what happens when I'm announcing and I need to get better at, okay, what sport am I at right now? What are those words that I use for this sport and what are they for the other sport? So it's being very aware of what you're doing. And sometimes the best way to learn is when you mess up and you're like, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We got a couple comments in here already. Happy Wednesday. Nathan Mashandra from the NR Sports Rush. He says, Happy Women's History Month to you, he says. And he said he does a lot of hybrid training group classes,
Mhm.
rotations, things like that. Challenges like Spartan Races, Try High Rocks.
Fun.
Yeah, anything fitness. Yes, that's totally what this is about. So yeah, so you said the preparation to host and reporting on different events. Let's transition into the upcoming CrossFit season, which has been very interesting to say the least. This upcoming season. What's your point of view of this CrossFit season? Because when they announced a lot of the, we did just the 25.1, 25.2,
Mhm.
and you've been doing that as well, still part of the, always part of the community and things like that. What's your take on the way the season has started so far? It feels different, and we'll get into like all the minutia of it and everything too. But it feels different because there's, you got the online qualifiers, and I'm trying to keep up with it. But so I got the expert of you to see what's been different with these games. So heading to the game so far.
Courtney, I'm flattered that you call me an expert, but truly,
Yes.
even this season, it's, I understand why CrossFit HQ made the decision to put the onus of the in-person semifinals on the event and give
Mhm.
athletes the opportunity. Okay, if you're not going to go in person, you can have these in affiliate qualifiers. Like, I
Right.
understand from a business perspective why they made that decision. It's going to save them money, and that's a big bottom line for them right
Right.
now. But as a consumer, as a sports fan, as somebody who talks about this every week, it's even
Yeah.
hard for me to follow along. I
Okay.
don't know where the cut lines are. I don't know
Right. Right.
like which athletes are qualifying where, in the sense, because there's no like, I can't just type in CrossFitGames.com and have a document that all of this information is being funneled to.
Mm.
I think Known and Knowable, and then that's run by Mike Helpin, and then Apollo, which is run by Barkley Dale. He does a bunch of like stats. I know that they have some like documents that I think might turn into that funnel to show
Yeah.
like who's qualifying where and where the cut lines are. But it just, at, if you're trying to make a sport grow, and maybe that's not the goal anymore, maybe it's not.
Mm. Okay.
But if you're trying to make a sport to grow, it needs to be really easy to follow, because how are you going to get the people on the outside that maybe don't know what CrossFit is yet interested? And if it's too confusing on how the qualifying process even works, I'm all of a sudden not interested. You
Mm.
know, I
Yeah.
think once we get to those in-person semifinals, those specific competitions will be very interesting.
Yeah.
But will we know where the cut lines are? Will we really know who qualifies when? Those are questions that I'm still asking myself, because I think, like, from a sports coverage perspective, yeah, in-person competitions are great and it's exciting and you get to see those athletes.
Yeah.
But looking at the big picture of how does this relate to qualifying for the CrossFit Games, it's a bit confusing, I think, at least for me.
No, you're right. And then, like you said, for someone that covers it and you said talks about it constantly each week, it was confusing even for me. Like, as you know, I've been watching CrossFit for a long time, and it was easy to follow because it's like, okay, this is the open, this is the, at that time it was quarterfinals,
Mhm.
semifinals, regionals, whatever it was, and then, oh, okay, these are the 40 athletes from the women's and the men's side that qualified and they're going to the games. And then you have, you also had like Wadapalooza and Rogue and things like that throughout the season. Now there's all these other things that are happening, events, and it's like, okay, is this part of the CrossFit Games? Is this part of qualifying? They said it was at 1% of
Mhm.
after the Open. So following, like I said, it was confusing because they put so much out when they announced this late last year, early this year. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now we have, you said, now we have the now we have the online semifinals, and then we have in-person semifinals. And okay, who qualifies for this? Who qualifies for that? It was a lot. So I just said, okay, I'll just wait till when it's on YouTube, and then
Yeah.
if it's on live, and then we'll watch it, and then we'll find out. But I wanted to ask you that because I've been trying to follow along. I've been watching the Open, and it's just, yeah, it's just been a lot of confusion.
Well, and even when you look at these in-person competitions, I
Yeah,
know that all of them are not gonna live stream. So,
you're
from a
right.
consumer being able to watch the process of how people qualify, you're not gonna be able to do that at a lot of them. And even the ones that are having broadcasts, it's gonna from my understanding, most of them will be more of a podcast style, which I've seen other
Mm,
sports do, like, women's rugby has a channel that's more like a podcast live coverage vibe. So I don't think that that is necessarily bad, but it is different, and people should expect a different experience of viewing some of these semifinals versus the experience they have at something like the Rogue Invitational, which they're pulling all
yeah,
of the bells and whistles and doing all of the things that are more in line with the broadcast that you would see on ESPN or CBS Sports, or if you watch football, baseball, basketball, these mainstream sports on your television.
yeah, for sure. And then you also have a lot of the elite athletes are not participating in CrossFit, or at least the games this year, the games part of it this year. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, there's so many. I mean, I was trying to find a list, and I think there was one, but there's so many, and we don't even know who's gonna, even if they try the Open, who's actually gonna move forward with it. I know you have someone like Chandler Smith, Pat
Mhm.
Vellner, Annie Thornsdal. These are just some of the names that are not. I know Laura Horvath is not participating. I just found that out. And so others, whether it's by injury or by choice. But what's your thoughts on that with some of the elite athletes not participating just for the CrossFit Games?
Yeah. I I'm personally not shocked by it. I think that this
Yeah,
has been something that's weighed heavy on a lot of
yeah,
people, whether it's athletes, coaches, managers, media, even just the community. What
mhm,
happened at the games has greatly impacted people in so many ways. And I would
yeah,
say even before that, there has been this cry for change when it comes to athlete safety, more transparency, being more communicative, professionalizing the sport. This is not something that just happened
yeah.
in 1 year. It's been a decade plus worth of a
Mm,
push for it and not seeing results. So it doesn't surprise me that there are athletes who are, putting all of their eggs in the WFP, World Fitness Project basket, or
yeah,
just saying, hey, we're not going to do anything this year because we want to see how the dust settles before we commit. Or, yeah, whether it is an injury or whether it's a financial decision, because
yeah,
having the open registration tied to the prize pool for the elite athletes, especially because so many people decided not to do the open this year, was a huge disadvantage to those
mm,
elite athletes. And again, I don't blame CrossFit for making that decision because, again, I think since we're all involved in CrossFit, we sometimes do feel like they owe us something
okay,
because we're so tied to it. We do it every day. But when you look at the athletes who have committed so much and are making this their full-time job, to see the funds or a percentage of those funds be what they make at the games, I think is a disservice to them.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make financial sense to a lot of them, especially if they're not going to finish within the top 5, top 10, which is it's a huge accomplishment just to make it to the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now to go and maybe break even, or a lot will be in the net negative by the time you have to pay for all of the travel if your sponsors
Yeah.
aren't flipping that bill. And I mean, I'm from the central New York area. I'm from the Albany area. It's really cheap once you get there. But for people who aren't in the US, and even in the US, it is a hard location to get to.
Yeah.
Flights are going to be expensive because it's smaller airports. So you just start to think about all of those puzzle pieces that go into making a decision for athletes to say, yes, I'm going to do the season or not. And there's a lot that goes into it. And just from the outside looking in, it's been really disheartening to see what backlash the
Oh my
athletes are
goodness.
getting from
Yeah.
community members. Yeah, it's just like, hey, they made a decision. It's a personal decision. And
Right.
if you're angry or upset, you can unfollow them or mute them. But to put hateful comments and terrorize them is
Yeah.
insane.
It's insane. You're right. And I had Nikki Brazier on last week.
Yeah, love
And
Nikki.
yeah, yes, yes. And we were talking about that because she put a post up, just
Mhm.
deciding she's not doing the open. And she was saying that I didn't have to do this, but I'm going to do this. But the backlash that she got, I was like, it's insane. Like it's a decision that someone can make, and like you said, they can unmute them, they can unfollow them. But why is it like it's almost like you said, it's when we make a decision about something and then we post it, and you get back, it's like this is my decision. For whatever reason, I don't have to explain it, but that's the way it is. And but the back, like I said, Amy Thornstarter got a lot of back. I'm like, this woman has put so much of her career and her livelihood into CrossFit, into the fitness sphere and all that. And it's like, why is it getting so much back? But again, it's just the way society is becoming. It's
Yeah.
becoming a hateful society, and it's sickening. And I'm thinking to myself, even like the community, like you said, they're just giving so much backlash and negative comments, and oh, you guys should be here and this and that. We don't know what someone's going through, and
Yeah.
emotionally, physically, or financially, as you said, it could be a variety of reasons. And the games will move on because there's other athletes and other things. But it's just, I don't know. Yeah, that really was disheartening for a lot of people to get so much backlash because of the decision they made.
Well, and even with the World Fitness Project,
Yes.
yes, they
Yeah.
have not they've put on a platter a lot of really great things.
Hmm.
Hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're offering, it's going to be great. They haven't proven it yet, but they have offered up some really good, I think, solutions to what
Yeah.
athletes and people have been asking for to see in the sport of CrossFit, or the sport of fitness, however you want to call it. But at the end of the day, what we're going to see after this calendar year is CrossFit's either going to say, you know what, the WFP is the real deal, the real deal, no
The
pun
real
intended,
deal. Yeah.
is the real deal. And we
Yep.
have a decision whether we want to partner with them or
Mm.
we need to be better than them. So, one way or another, they're going to have to evolve or elevate.
Yep.
Another
Mm.
option is, you know what? They're doing a great job. We are just going to let them license the season, and
Mm.
they're going to now run the CrossFit Games season. And hey, that's still a win for us because there's going to be a financial
Yes.
tie to that.
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
could be great for them. Or the WFP totally flunks. Nobody comes out and watches. The money runs dry. Athletes have a terrible experience and it goes away, and CrossFit keeps doing what they've done. So there's a lot of different ways that this can go. And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think any of them are bad. It's just the evolution of the sport and the growing pains of things being different. And I think if more people were open minded to just take a step back and let's see how things play out,
Yeah.
the conversations people would be having about the temperature of the space would be more productive.
Yeah, because the CrossFit HQ, they're at a crossroads right now, as you said. But you said the World Fitness Project, and that they said they laid a lot out there. They got the groundwork in. So now, and others, and a lot of the athletes have committed at least to that. And you're right, it gives a lot of options. There's a lot of options. And you guys talked about it on Target Elite Fitness for the last few years about more options for athletes, coaches, affiliates,
Mhm.
to be able to, especially coaches and affiliates, to have their athletes participate in other parts of the season instead of just the games in itself. You said I think that's a good idea if CrossFit HQ and the World Fitness Project, if World Fitness Project works and they come together and, like I said, have a licensing deal or something. That would it would benefit everybody. It would benefit, you said, to evolve, and I think I would feel like that would be the right thing to do. Is you want the sport to evolve. What's this, 18 years, I think it is now for the games itself, something like that, almost going on 20. So it's
Mhm.
still a young, sport, but for it to evolve, it has to do something different. But it looks like the athletes are at odds with CrossFit HQ and the way things are run. Like you said, it's just there's so many different layers that I mean, there could be a whole different podcast of that, just the layers of that, the behind the scenes of what, them being at odds with the athletes and CrossFit and just trying to come together.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
where we are, 6, 7, 8 months from now. I'll be
Mhm.
very curious to see what the temperature of the ecosystem is by then.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great way to see it too, because you have, Wadapalooza and Rogue, and I love those competitions.
Mm.
They're fun. What's a couple of your favorite of all the, like, the game? I know the games is the big, this, like, the Super Bowl of CrossFit for sure. But what's, like, one of the ones you love to cover or watch? Is it Wadapalooza? Is it Rogue? Because those are, to me, they're really fun to watch.
Courtney, you hit the nail on the head because I love specifically Wadapalooza SoCal.
Oh yes, yeah, that was good.
Because of the team format and then
Mhm.
Rogue with the condensed field of 20 and 20. It just makes those experiences still so different than the CrossFit games
Yeah.
or even Wadapalooza Miami. I feel like they just give a very unique perspective to, what the programming could look like, how athletes that are typically individual athletes work with other team athletes. Or I mean, I was so bummed this year that I couldn't go to Rogue because so normally their Halloween weekend, they had
Yeah,
shifted
to
uh,
November.
to November, and I
Yeah.
had a competition I cover every year on that weekend, so I was bummed that I couldn't go. I'm glad that they moved it back to Halloween weekend for
Yeah.
this year. I'm so excited to go to Scotland, but those are two really great competitions for any sports fan. And when you think of like what is the pinnacle of how to cover an event, how to
Mm.
broadcast an event, um, how to just do an event, I would always point to Rogue. The Rogue Invitational should be the blueprint for anybody running an event. And I get it. Their budget is probably much bigger than
Yes,
some of
yes.
these other competitions. So I'm fully aware of that. But they just, they do it right every time. And
Yeah.
when they don't do it right, they take accountability and they
Mm.
shift. And that's what I love to see.
Yeah, and then you would think other competitions and things will take a page from their book, because you're right. Rogue, I remember I went a couple of years ago when it was in Texas, and
Mhm.
that was my first CrossFit event, and that was so much
Oh, I think I
fun.
saw you.
Yeah, yeah, we saw each other. You were on the
Okay.
run, you were on
I
the
know. I was like,
move.
oh,
Hi. And then you were on the move, so we didn't get a picture or anything. But next time we
yeah.
will, for sure. But
Yeah.
you were getting so much great content on that, and but it was that was a lot of fun. And we've been watching Rogue for years, it was just seeing in person is great, because
Mhm.
you also have the strongman competition there too, and it was just a great event. The community came. That weather back then 2 years ago, it was hot
Mm.
those first 2 days, and then the third day was so, like, it just got,
Didn't it rain?
rain. It was cold.
Cold, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Me and my wife, we say we were there. We try to troop it out, but we were like,
We're
we've
done.
been here for the last 2.5 days. We go back to the hotel. We'll watch the rest on the live stream and got
Yeah.
something to eat. Watch the rest on the live stream. We were so cold, and we were out there for a couple of hours. Like, ugh, this is. And they changed it up because of the weather, for the
Mhm.
athletes, of course, so they won't get injured. But yeah, yes, Rogue, as you said, they might got more money and resources. They can do those things, and the athletes love it though, because I think money, sponsorship, all those things, but
Mhm.
they just do it right. They just definitely do it right, for
Yeah.
sure. All right, let's get into 25.1 and point two. 25.2, what was your thoughts on the on the event itself, and the what they did? Would you change anything? What was your thoughts on that?
I really liked the first 2 workouts. I would say
Okay.
I do wish that the open was 5 weeks. I know that
Instead of 3, yeah.
affiliate owners
Mm.
will probably not agree with me because logistics and the
Make it 4
planning and
then. Make it a
everything.
full month. Make it a full month. That would be
Oh, a
cool.
full month, that would be
Yeah.
good. That
Yeah.
would be good. That's a nice even
Yep.
number.
Mhm.
But I think it was really great because the 2 affiliates that I dropped into for Friday Night Lights,
Yeah.
both of those gym models, they have their CrossFit affiliate, but then they also offer more of like a boot camp, uh, no barbells, mostly like dumbbells, kettlebells,
Mm.
fitness tracks. And what I liked about this programming is these affiliates were able to merge both of those communities and give
Right.
people an option, which I do want to give credit to CrossFit because they do have the foundations track that people can follow.
Mhm.
And the camp people, I'll call them, were mostly able to follow that track. So it was really cool to see communities brought together
Yeah.
to do this fun thing on Friday Night Lights, and the music, and I mean the food and the baked goods of the community, and
That.
it's just so much fun. But the workouts itself, I mean, the first one, I could see why people are like, oh, like it was too easy. And I'm like, mm,
15
mm.
minutes of what they
It's easy if your fitness level is at mine or maybe below. But once you get to that top tier athlete, ask them
Mm,
if that was easy, because where I was like, the first like 10 minutes, I need to be conservative and go kind of slow and then push the last 5.
right.
They are going hard as soon as 3, 2, 1 happens. So I don't think that that was easy
Right, right. It didn't look easy.
for them. Yeah, to see how
Yeah.
many rounds they were getting, and breaking the scorecard by getting more rounds than were even like available to mark off on there. So I think and the open always has an engine test. I mean, the
Yeah.
open is mostly an engine test
Yeah.
with a little
Yeah.
bit of high skill and a little bit of heavy barbell mixed
Mm,
in, but the basis is an engine test. So I thought the first one was very good for, getting affiliates to have more members come out and do it, whether they signed up for the open or were just part of their community.
yeah.
And then week 2, I mean, a retest is always fun, especially
Yep.
because I feel like picking something from 2022 got enough of the communities to be able to retest. Like if you did something back in a 2015 retest, I guarantee, at least like the affiliates I went to, a lot of people that wouldn't have been a retest because a good amount of their community hadn't yet started CrossFit. But
Yeah.
doing
Right.
it from 2022, you got a lot of people that were like, oh yeah, that was the year I got my first muscle up, or I didn't have muscle ups then, and
Hmm.
maybe I'll get my first one this year. So I thought that that was really cool to be able to test yourself in that capacity. And I always like an increase in skill type of workout. So I thought overall it was good programming.
Yeah, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And it seems like the programming is always, for the most part, good when it's the open.
Mhm.
They really I think they really do a really good job on that. And I know I did read that 25.2, because maybe it was a retest, got some criticism because of that. And, but it's funny because it seems like, with programming, you're going to use a lot of the same equipment. You're going to use a dumbbell, you're going to use a kettlebell, you're going to do all these things, a muscle, do muscle ups, pull ups, whatever it is.
And the
uh
space has to be
and
somewhat
so that's what
limited
he said.
because you're hosting it in a class.
Exactly. And it's got to be for people like myself, if I was to do it, to be able to have those equipment in your gym or something like that,
Mhm.
so they don't want to make it. I think sometimes it just, I guess it depends. Sometimes the community or the people or fans, they want something different, but it's almost like
Mhm.
the open is for the community. It's for the gyms that they might not have. I don't know if they want to lift up a stone or something like that, like strongman does. Everybody doesn't have a stone to do something of that, that type of workout. They have dumbbells, they have kettlebells, they have these things. It's a gym. They can do lunges, burpees, things like that. It's something that they try to make it something that uh average people, average athletes can do, or average people that can do as well, or have access to be able to do.
Right, and the open, there's so many goals that CrossFit
Mhm.
is trying to accomplish with the programming of the open. Like you
Right.
said, having it be for the community, being able to program it during a class time at an affiliate, also advancing the top 1% to these in-person semifinals or affiliate semifinals. There's so many buckets that they have to
Yeah.
achieve in order for it to be a success. For me, I don't get very nitpicky with what the programming looks like for the open. I think the time to be super critical is once we get to those in-person competitions
Mhm.
at semifinals, and
Yeah.
how are we advancing these people to the CrossFit games, or even I think it would be fair to be more critical when we had quarterfinals. What is
Yeah.
that stage advancing these people? Because I think either 2 or 3 years ago, muscle ups were not tested in the first 2 stages, and we got to
Mhm.
in-person semifinals, and there were athletes who couldn't do ring muscle ups. And you're
Yeah.
like, "Ugh, this was probably a miss. We probably should have tested this ahead of time." Just because, like, nobody wants to, watch a live stream and see athletes missing something.
Yeah.
Like, if it's the last barbell to a heavy lift, you can understand that. But when it's
Right.
like an opening movement to programming and they can't even start, ooh, maybe
Yeah.
we didn't test something.
I remember that too, and there was another. I think it was a couple years ago too, when with the it was the I think it was the jump rope. It was and then
Oh,
we were, yeah, that was a few, and I think only a few people got through it, because I think that was an elimination round too, and
yep.
that was a very interesting games, and now then everybody said, okay, I guess we got to put jump. I mean, you got to put jump ropes in our programming, and
Yeah, the crossovers that year.
crossovers. Yeah, the crossovers. Yes, that's what it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then we're sitting there like, wow, okay, this is something totally that they really put that to the test. But I think it's great too that they challenge the athletes to,
For
especially
sure.
the elite athletes, just to be like, okay, don't make it too easy, as you said, too easy for them. And then they're just blowing through all the things. You have your exceptions like a Tia Claire Toomey, who's just a one of one, but
Yep.
yeah, but it makes it more challenging. But speaking of Tia Claire Toomey, I want to get into some high rocks with you, and uh, I've seen a lot of athletes from CrossFit is going to. And I think I asked you this on your podcast as well. By the way, it's a great podcast as well. Everyone check it out
Thank you.
as well for sure. But Tia Claire Toomey, or going into CrossFit, it just seems like, I don't know, from your perspective, it seems like she's excited about this as a challenge, and things like that. I've been watching her YouTube channel, her husband, improving itself. A lot of their athletes are doing this as well. But what's your thoughts on, for one, Tia and others going into in high rocks and just basically doing this and really getting some great times too? But what you think of your opinion on athletes going into high rocks and just challenging themselves, and on that perspective?
I think it's great because we keep talking about more opportunities,
Yes.
whether it's
Yeah.
getting to compete in person, whether it's financial opportunities, whether it's sponsorship opportunities, by doing another sport that is still under the same umbrella of fitness,
Yep.
high rocks.
Hmm.
This is a great opportunity for athletes to go out, maybe get in front of other sponsors that are not in the CrossFit ecosystem, challenge yourself in different ways where you do have a structure that is repeatable every single time. And
Right.
everywhere that you do a high rocks, the format is the same, but the structure of the venue is going to be a little bit different.
Right.
So
Right.
there's always a few variables that are not identical, but I think that it's cool to see. I mean, even James Sprague just going
Yeah.
out there. What was it? Right after Wadapalooza, Miami,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kicking ass. And
Yes.
whether people are doing it as singles, doubles, a team, there's a lot of different formats you can dabble into, and I think it's cool, and I think it's also proof that the methodology of CrossFit works. It works for a lot of different
Mhm.
sports. Yes, with High Rocks, you absolutely need to focus in on running, because
Yeah.
while there's 8 obstacles or stages, if you're a bad runner, you're never going to win a High Rock.
You're not
You
gonna
win it
probably
on the
finish
run.
either. Yes.
Yes,
For
you're
sure.
probably gonna get time capped.
Hmm.
Like, I know if and when I do a High Rocks, it's I'm gonna maybe need to run a little more than my once a week that I'm doing right
Yeah,
now.
right. It's a lot of running. I think it's like 70, maybe higher, 80% running. And you say you
Yeah.
have the stages and obstacles that they do. I know you had Meg Jacoby,
Mhm.
the High Rocks world champion, about to defend her title next for this upcoming. And you had the other Lauren Smith you had on your show
Mhm.
as well. And they talked about that, about how much running and fitness it is. And even Tia was talking about, yes, she's doing her training with running. Uh, do you think, my question was, me and White was just talking about this. Is she gonna, in your opinion, do you think she's gonna compete in the games, or she's gonna go right to High Rocks for this year, try to get into the High Rocks? I don't know, qualify for the world championship. I think she qualified for the doubles because she had a great time the last two times. So I know that's in June, but it's different. She talked about that. It's a lot more running, and then she goes to the Open, which she did that different with Open with her husband,
That was
Shane.
amazing.
It
I
was
loved
amazing,
that.
right? It was amazing. Me too. It was amazing. And then in 25.2, she said it's a different perspective with her. Seems like with this season, because she's like, she has nothing to prove, and she's the all-time
No.
greatest, all-time greatest in CrossFit. I think for men and women. I guess you could put Rich Froning in there, Matt Frazier. There's others, but Tia Claire Toomey, just how much she's won in a row, things like that. But do you feel like, I don't know? I know they say they're gonna make an announcement. I think it's gonna be, she's gonna go to High Rocks full time. That's just my opinion. That's what I'm looking at. But maybe I'm looking at it differently. But what do you think of her? And just, it's like I said, it just seems like there's this season alone feels like it's different for her. Like it's almost like that joy. I'm not saying she lost her joy, but that
Mhm.
joy is back with her with High Rock. But what do you think? It could just be just she wants to try something different.
Yeah, I do love how you are seeing, because I've met Tia in person a couple of
Hmm.
times,
Yeah.
and it's nice to see like the content that she's making right now. You do get
Right.
to see what her genuine personality is,
Hmm. Yes.
where I think people even compared like they hated Matt Frazier when he was on the competition floor. But when you then get to know Matt Frazier, you're like,
Right.
wow, what a really kind, genuine, amazing human. And I
Mm.
think sometimes people, they don't get to see the true person,
Right.
because they
Yeah.
are super competitive at the highest level. They're out
Right.
there to win. Like, they have their game face on. So what I really appreciate is, oh yay, like people get to see the real Tia now. Not that she
Hmm.
wasn't real in the other times, but it's just so different when maybe you are jumping into another sport, or like you said, she has absolutely nothing to prove.
Right.
I would agree with you that I wouldn't be surprised if she just leans into High Rocks and like goes out on her own terms. Like, if that was the last year we saw her compete at the CrossFit Games, she didn't owe us an announcement last year at the game saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, this is number 7 and I'm retired." Like, she doesn't owe any of us
Right. Right.
that. And who even knows if that was the decision, or if she made the decision at that time. So I'll be interested, just as I think everybody else, to see when the time to make the decision comes.
Mhm.
Does she do the game season? Does she just go into High Rocks? Is this just a fun thing? Is she going to lean into it and try to be a world champion? There's a lot of
Yeah.
variables that I'm excited to see with her.
Yeah, for sure. Because it just feels a little different. You just said she was just locked into the games and that seasons and all those seasons, competitive. He said at the highest level, and and people are like, oh, but that's just she's locked in to try to win. That's what that was. But this time around with High Rocks, and it's more of a challenge, and she's done excellent just in the few months but her fitness is always on point. So,
Yeah.
but it because even for this. I don't know if you've seen it with her 25.2, and she talked about in the video, I think it was on the proven one, she talked about, yeah, I know it's a repeat, and it's almost like I might do better. I mean, she has said she has to lift a barbell. I think she said since Rogue, so it was like,
So it's in like the top 50
yeah, top
worldwide or
15. Yeah,
whatever. And I'm just
exactly,
like,
exactly.
Jesus Christ, you're an animal.
Yes, right, right. And then she said, like, yeah, I think she did this 6 minutes maybe or something like that. And her other time, she said, well, if I beat. I'm like, Tia from 3 years ago would have been like, I'm beating my time, and so it's totally different. Like she just seemed like I don't know, it just seemed like she's just having more fun. Maybe I'm looking more into it than it is, but it just seemed like she's just I don't know if she had more fun, but it's more like I said, more of a better, just a different challenge for her, and she's
Mhm.
really embracing it as well. So I'm with you. I don't have any problem with CrossFit athletes going. I know some do, but CrossFit athletes going into higher, like you said, it's still a form of fitness, and the methodology it's a little different, but it just proves that like you said, the CrossFit methodology works, and it's still fitness. They're still doing push pull sleds, burpees, wall balls, all these things that they're doing. And it's just like I said, it's just a lot more running.
Even with tactical games, I can't tell
Yes.
you the amount of
I'm
athletes that
sure.
are affiliate owners or are
Hmm.
full-time members at an affiliate and use that type of training to get ready for these competitions. Of
Yeah.
course, then they're also adding a lot more sandbag work, maybe some yoke work, more running because there is a ruck run at every single one of their events.
Yeah.
But the baseline and the basis of their training for a lot of them is CrossFit. So I think it's really cool to see so much crossover in these other fitness sports using CrossFit.
I love it. They got the I think it's the grid league. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a team that they've expanded. I know they just were in Florida. I think they went to Vegas and others. So now they're bringing in more teams. We've watched that for the last couple of years. Yeah, whatever. Like I said, whenever it's on, we're watching Deca Fit and Deca
Yeah,
Strong,
yeah.
all those competitions. It's fitness, so it's great to see. I just got a couple more. Like I said, we could talk forever, like we
I
said
know.
before. But I know you probably got things to do, just like I do too. But yeah, just a few more before I let you go. I wanted to ask you about what does the rest of the year look like for you? And you kind of hit on a little bit of it, but what is in Lauren's for the next 8 to 9 months that you can announce? I know some things are surprise, so what you can announce.
So what I can announce
Mhm.
is I will still be covering CrossFit events. I will be at the in-person semifinal, TFX, the Fittest Experience. I'll be on their broadcast media team for that.
Okay, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will continue to cover the tactical games.
Hmm.
I will be competing for my first time in the tactical games in
Oh
May.
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is going to be a lot of fun and a slap in the face all at the same time. And there is another sport that I'm going to be working in that is outside of the fitness realm, but I
Mm.
won't say yet because the ink hasn't dried yet. But
Okay. All right.
TBD.
Yeah, a lot of things coming up. A lot of things coming up. I would try to guess it, but I don't know where it would go. So I'll leave it alone. I'll try to guess like where. I mean, because like you said, you're so versatile of a lot of different things. So I'm trying to think of what's coming up. I'll 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 DM you on that one. Then
Yeah,
we'll talk
yeah.
off camera on that, and then see if I can guess it right on that. So, all right, two more, and then I'll let you go. If you were head of CrossFit HQ and CrossFit Media, what changes would you make, or what would you do differently if you were the president or CEO of CrossFit?
Oh man, that is Courtney, we need a whole separate
I'm
podcast
sure it's a
for that.
loaded question. Maybe
I
one or two things.
yeah,
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 I'll just keep that kind of short and sweet.
yeah.
I think that right now, at least with their social media, they're doing a lot right, where they're
Mm.
leaning into the personalities of the athletes.
Mm.
Like they just put up a couple great posts of Dallin Pepper and Jason Hopper, and is it
I think it's
James
just
Sprague also?
yeah.
Or
Well, they're doing 25.3,
the
but I
three
know
of them.
yeah, and I think oh geez, Justin Medeiros is in that group too. They've been doing
Yeah,
like
because they do their own
their
YouTube show,
bets
I
and
think.
yeah, they did the bets for the 25.1 and 2. Yeah.
Yes, which I've loved that, but I love that CrossFit media, social, at least their social media channels, are really leaning into those personalities right now.
That's good.
And I think that they are doing things that are right in that sense. Like, let's dig deeper, let's tell the human stories, let's make these people relatable. And I feel
Yeah.
like for so many years they had been missing that. Um, I I would say that maybe you know what? I'm gonna leave
I
it at
don't want
that.
you to get it. Yes, I'll let you. I know because because like I said, I watch Target Elite Fitness, and I know there's a lot of there's a lot of things that especially you guys wanted to make make changes or at least suggest that they could do because Sean and Tommy from before when they worked at with CrossFit Media how that has transpired over the years. I'm sure there could be some changes on there. What used to work, and now they've taken it away. But I'll leave it at that. So we'll leave it alone at that. I could definitely read that room, so I'll leave it alone.
Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah, for sure. I'll leave it off the hook from there. So for sure.
Maybe for another day.
But another day, off camera, we can do that for sure. For sure. But talk about the podcast that you launched, the new one, live with Lauren, excuse me, live with Lauren. Talk about a little bit of the launch of that new podcast, what it's about, things like that.
Yeah, so that really was just like there's so many veins that I'm in right now
Mhm.
where I'm talking about the sport at the highest level, or I'm interviewing people, or everything is kind of tight knit and professional, that
Mhm.
I wanted to just have an outlet where I could sit and hang out with the
Yeah.
people who consume my content, like just be super transparent. And it's everything from talking about my crazy terrible dating life
I
to
saw that one.
the events that I'm covering,
Mhm.
and what goes into that. So some things that are like behind the curtain. And truthfully, Courtney, like I'm an open book. There's not
Yeah.
much that people could ask me that I'm going to be like, definitely off limits. We're not going to talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to have, a a safe place where I could chat with my friends is really
I like
what it
that.
is.
I like that because, like I said, it's just open. Even for my podcast, even though I do the interviews and stuff, but I have a Q&A some every once in a while, and people will
Yeah.
send in questions. They want to know something. I like that because I think one of the episodes you had was I think you were with one of your friends, and you guys were getting ready for
Oh
it was
yeah.
all girls night out, and
Yep.
you were
Yep.
just answering questions you said about dating or just in general, just like, hey, I'm just letting my hair down, and this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a happy hour, and that's yeah. So I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a fun time. It's a nice separate outlet
Yes.
where I can truly just relax and be myself and
Mhm.
have a fun time, and it's not as buttoned up as some of the other things I do. But then I also love like being able to utilize my personal YouTube channel to interview people who are maybe in the CrossFit space, maybe in vertical spaces. There's actually, when I'm done with this, I'm going to be interviewing this girl, Alexa Santos, who I used to work in television with. And
Oh,
then she left TV and now is on Instagram, Alexa, what's for dinner? And she's gone viral on several of her videos
that's
for
cool.
like fun little quick cooking things. So I get to highlight her and talk about, the transition from very professional TV to now kind of a food influencer life. So a
Yeah,
lot of
that's cool.
fun, different things that I get to do on that channel.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, you guys have that with the news because you covered news, you did news, and now they just said just different career paths and things like that. I'm looking forward to that one too. I'm
Yeah.
always enjoying the content as well. So all right, last question. I ask all my guests this. Women's History Month is every March, and so I like I said highlight from a lot of different professions, things like that. What does that mean to you professionally and personally?
Mm. It means we have to keep pushing the needle forward.
Yeah.
The work is not done. Things are not equal, whether it's intentional or just by being unaware. And I think that it's the latter for a lot is, we go with the status quo. We go with what we know because what we know is comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for more women to be in rooms where decisions are being made and to push the needle and not apologize for asking for what, not just what they want, but what they've proven that they are absolutely qualified for. And I know that's advice that I can take for myself because asking for what you want is hard and it sometimes will make people uncomfortable and you automatically go internal and you start apologizing because you feel uncomfortable. Like, have the confidence to just ask for what you want. If you don't get it, that's okay because now you just have more data and more confidence to keep doing that until somebody finally does say yes.
Love it. I appreciate that. Thank you again for that, and thank you for your time as always. And I know time is precious, and time is we locked it in. I mean, as soon as I reached out,
Yeah,
you were
we
like, "Oh my
did.
goodness!" You was like, "Oh yes." He said, "I got some time this week, and before before the schedule starts, well, like I said, the weather's getting warmer and things like that." But I appreciate that about for Women's History Month, and I thank you for letting me highlight you and because of the work you do. I really love the content and everything you got going on, but not just that, just a great person, great individual. And I thank you for just doing this always. I think it's like 3, 4 times you've done this show with me. So I really appreciate that. And thank you again.
Thank you, Courtney. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you.
Yes, yes. Always a pleasure catching up with you too. And you can follow Lauren on Instagram. Are you on TikTok too?
Yeah, but it's pretty much the same stuff that's on
Yeah, yeah,
Instagram.
on Instagram.
It's a
So
little lazier over there.
yes, yes, yes. So you can follow Lauren Kalil on on Instagram, TikTok, mostly Instagram, but also YouTube, Talk Elite Fitness, YouTube, um, Live with Lauren, the YouTube channel as well, and wherever you might catch her somewhere around the world at some events during the spring, summer, and fall. So definitely catch all her work in as well. So thanks again, Lauren. Really appreciate it. And we have to maybe do this again, maybe before the games, where we get a big picture of how the season has
Oh, yeah.
transpired, or even after how the season has transpired. Because like I said, we're confused, and you talk about it every week, but we're all confused. But think things will work out once we see the season progress. So again, I really appreciate you, Lauren, for doing this. And thanks again.
Thanks, Courtney. Thanks for highlighting all these amazing women too.
Yes, of course, and happy Women's History Month to you and beyond as well. So again, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.